All right, it is the Brett Winterble show preview, and it is good to be here with you on this Monday. And there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering starting right at 3:05 here on News Talk 1110 993 WBT. Now, I have specifically and purposely chosen the backdrop that I have behind me by design. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, right? And you know what that is. That is the Constitution of the United States of America. And I am deeply saddened by the current climate and culture that we're seeing take place in the country today. Now, why is that? This is not a Donald Trump thing, a Mike Pence thing, an election fraud thing. This is something much bigger, much deeper than that. We are, ladies and gentlemen, right now on the verge of making some catastrophic decisions about our country. We really are. Look, I'm a person who leans right. I would say I'm conservative libertarian. I believe that individuals ought to have the rights to self-determination, but all of that happening under the backdrop of the protections of your Bill of Rights, your rights ensured and enshrined under the Bill of Rights. And those rights are not granted to you by a government, by a president, by a Congress, by a Senate. Those rights are granted to you by God. And these rights that we have are not just rights that belong to we, the American people. They are universal rights. The right to speak, the right to practice your religion, the right to a free press, the right to the ability to redress your grievances from your elected officials. Sadly, we just watched a series of violations of every one of those elements of the First Amendment just in about the last week. You didn't see peaceful redress of grievances. You saw people stampeding and storming into the Capitol of the United States. Now, it's easy to not pick up a mob mentality. It's easy to think about it from the quiet, the quiet contemplative space of my studio or of your home, in which you say, okay, in the abstract, let's go down the road to being a part of a riot. What are we intending to accomplish as a part of that? And I get it. Crowd psychology is an incredibly toxic and dangerous thing. It's incredibly toxic. It's incredibly dangerous. By the way, hello to John Halton, who's out there, who's been a long time viewer and listener. So if we're going to go storm into the Capitol, what are we going in there to do? Are we going to suddenly persuade people to our way of thinking while hitting them with a stick or setting off a smoke bomb or crushing a cop or doing anything like that, smashing public property, seizing public property? Or are we going to change anybody's minds? You are absolutely right if you say absolutely not. It's just not who we are. There have been insurrections through American history. You can go and type into Google, type into Wikipedia, and look up the insurrections, look up the fights that have taken place throughout American history. But the difference is it's now been amplified globally, right? So I mentioned we violated the central tenets of the First Amendment last week. You violated the peaceful redress of grievances. You violated free speech. You violated, of course, well, you could say you didn't violate the freedom of religion, but you definitely violated the First Amendment protections that exist for the press, because the press has now become, let's be honest, the press has now become adversarial to a percentage of the country. The press, not talk radio, not the opinion pages, the reporters and the press have now become hostiles when it comes to looking at the broader spectrum of the First Amendment. And this is not who we are, ladies and gentlemen. Who we are, America is a good country. We are a good people. We are charitable. We're hot-headed. We are people who get upset over any number of things. But when it comes to governance, we have a strong track record for at least the last century of understanding that when an election takes place and a result is known, we live by it. We grouse about it. We complain about it. We whine about it, but we really don't riot about it. And that's a shame. That's a shame. Now, coming up on my show this afternoon, I want to dive deeper because what we now have happening in our nation is something that I have never seen before in my life. I haven't read about in my life. And that is, we have taken the cancel culture from the university setting, from the academic setting, from the entertainment setting, and we have now thrown it into the body politic. You are looking at people who had nothing to do with the violence that was perpetrated on the streets of Washington, D.C. last week, who are now bearing the brunt. Is this by design? Is this spontaneous? I don't think it's one or the other. I think this is a part of a course that's been charted that is now being played out. One of the things we have to come to terms with, we have to come to real terms with, is the fact that we have groups of people in this country who don't agree with each other. Fine. Welcome to the dawn of time. But the idea that not only am I going to disagree with your political position, not only am I going to dispute your political position, not only am I going to be offended by complain about your political position, I'm actually going to take action to prevent you from either elaborating on, discussing, or perhaps spreading your political position in advance of anything you've done. Which takes me to the big tech tyranny. People on my program, people who listen to my program or have watched me on television know that I am incredibly suspicious of the big tech tyranny. And I can hear you laughing right now. I can hear you through the screen and through the microphone. I can hear you laughing right now as you're saying, well, whatever, what the hell are you doing, man? You're on Facebook Live right now. You're on Twitter right now. You're on YouTube right now, or Twitch, or all the platforms this is going out at. Sure. Yes, that's right. That's correct. Yes. I'm going to go in the lanes that I can until they cancel me. I'm going to try to persuade people to my side of thinking, but never with a fist, never with a weapon, never with a threat of cancellation or an attempt to get you fired or to dox you or to swat you or to do any of those things, because that's not who we are. That's who the Chinese Communist Party is. That's who the tyrants around the world are. They fear the debate. They fear the discussion. They fear the dissension. I don't. I'm in the communications business. I love the notion of the political argument, just in the abstract. I want to try to win you over to my way of thinking, and I want you to try to defend your position with me, and I will listen. But I don't want to cancel you. Why would a boxer want to get into a ring with no competition? Why would a lawyer want to present a case absent a counter counsel or absent a judge? What is the point of that? It doesn't make any sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we are better than this as a country. We are better than this as a nation. And so I think it's incumbent upon each and every one of us as individuals, not Republicans, not Democrats, not conservatives, not liberals. It's incumbent upon each and every one of us to reach out to people who agree, who disagree, who are uncertain, and just have the conversation. The people that benefit, come here, I want to tell you something important. The people that benefit from this division, they're not you and they're not me. They're not here in America. They're in Silicon Valley. They're in Washington. They're in Los Angeles and Hollywood. The idea of people being at each other's throats, the idea that people want to have a fight. Is that you? You just came off this riot, not literally, but this riot takes place last Wednesday. Did you go to church this weekend? Did you have any social interaction to the extent that you were permitted by your governor or your mayor or your local health authority, absent the mask? Did you have any interaction with people this weekend? Did you go to the supermarket? Did you go to a sporting event? Did you spend some time in the park? Did you go to a restaurant, even to take takeout? How many fights did you get in your daily life? You're at work right now. You're probably watching me. I'll talk quietly so the boss doesn't know. Did you getting in fights at work? Are you fighting with people in work? Are you going up to all the people and yelling and screaming at them and hitting them or threatening to hit them or whatever? If you had a disagreement with somebody with whom you work, if you have a disagreement with somebody at work about whatever, politics, it doesn't matter what it is, would you ever go into your boss and attempt to have them fired? To say, listen, I want you to take the job from that person. I want you to make it so that they can't pay their kids' college tuition. I want you to make it so that they can't pay their mortgage. I want you to make it so that when you fire them, they become homeless and destitute and have no future. Would you ever in a million years do that with a real person? But that is precisely what cancel culture is. See, we have gotten to this place, and it's a generational divide. And I'm the last guy to stand on my lawn and be, oh, you dirty, rotten kids with your internet and your web and all that. No, that's not who I am. But I understand there's a generational divide. You see, it's easy to just look at names on a board. Those aren't people with beating hearts and functioning brains and people who love them and people who love, right? That's a group. When you look at our culture today, how do we elevate the culture? What are you doing to elevate your culture? What are you doing to elevate your ideas? Now, admittedly, this is an incredibly challenging time. This is an incredibly partisan time. I'm well aware of that, especially being in talk radio. And I've gotten the warning from some people, nobody in authority, but contemporaries of mine who say, well, Brett, I guess you're going to have to maybe find another line of something to do because it looks like they're going to come for you and you better change your tune or else I'm not worried about that. I'm sincerely not worried about that because I understand each day when I wake up, I can only control my personal actions and my reactions. I can't control what other people do. I can't control Nancy Pelosi. I can't control Donald Trump. I can't control you out there. I can't control my kids. They're teenagers. I get that. But I can control me. I can control my intent. I can control my messaging. And I can control how I react when people challenge me. And you can do the same thing. And if each and every one of us sits back and says, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do the work of living in America. I'm going to be charitable as I've been, as friendly as I can be. I'm going to do those things. That's the absolute max that you can do. Nobody has the power to go to the White House and talk to the president and tell him to do this or to do that. And if you did, he probably wouldn't listen anyways. Nancy Pelosi's not going to listen to your complaints. And sure as heck, these people are not going to pay attention if you go to the Capitol and rampage. But now we're in a tough situation. And here's what I would say. At the risk of coming off as weak and silly and naive, in the quiet of your home tonight or in your car or as you're walking around at lunch, whatever it is, in that quiet, just take a moment and reflect and think about what it is it means to be an American, to live in this country with 325 million other troublemakers. I mean that as a joke, of course, but we have a history of not getting along. We have a history of being loud and proud. Nobody ever talks about the ugly Argentinian, or here comes the ugly Scandinavian touring the country. No, the ugly American is a sort of a phrase and an idea and a concept that exists because we're loud, we're brash, we're obnoxious. Yes, and I love all that about us because, well, it's what makes us interesting. I don't want to be boring, and I don't want boring politics, but I want civil politics. Maybe not in rhetoric per se, but certainly I want civil action. There are going to be a lot of opportunists coming around trying to do one of two things for you, and to the rest of us. They're going to try to get you to jump when you shouldn't jump. They're going to try to get you to lose your temper, and they're going to try to make you make rash decisions. Remember what I said. You can control your action, and you can control your reaction. That's all we can control. Today on the show, I'm going to play extended clips from Speaker Pelosi from last night on 60 Minutes. Stop. Don't rebel. Don't hang up. Don't disconnect. Listen to me. I know where I'm going here, folks. I'm going to play some stuff from Speaker Pelosi. She talked to Leslie Stahl, and I thought Leslie Stahl asked some very pointed questions. I thought they were interesting questions. I thought the speaker's answers were even more interesting and revelatory. Learned a little bit about sort of her POV and what it was she's intending moving forward. I'm also going to play for you a clip that I mentioned this to Bo Thompson on the morning show. AOC said something that was just kind of weird. And I don't know if it's a sincerely held belief where she really thinks it's true or if we're just trying to overhype. But the reality is what happened last week was violent and it was ugly. But let me say this in closing. I don't believe any of us should be shuttered or shut down by big tech. Alexander Navalny, whom you've heard of, and if you haven't, if you Google his picture, you'll know who he is. He was a dissident in Russia who was basically almost murdered by Putin's thugs. He came out overnight and he said, look, I get that Donald Trump just got thrown off of Twitter and people that agree with him got thrown off of Twitter. But I don't agree with that decision because every single day that I'm on Twitter, I get death threats from people who want to kill me. But Twitter doesn't ban them. This is a guy who survived one assassination attempt. And he says, Jack, you don't ban me. I mean, you don't ban the people who threaten me. You don't throw them off the platform. Why? I fear that we're going to see a number of dominoes fall. And I fear that if you attended that rally, even if you were in the far back row, way back, and never went near the Capitol, but we're simply in DC, you're going to be wrapped up in this. You're going to be deplatformed. You're going to be censored. That's not right. See, because Jack Dorsey made his money with people fighting. If every conservative left the Twitter platform today, it would become an incredibly boring place because it's not a place then of multiple viewpoints. And if only conservatives go over to Parler or over to the other platforms, they're going to be incredibly boring places. We can silo all we want. We can silo our beliefs. I'm only going to talk to the people with whom I agree. I'm going to completely ignore the people with whom I disagree. And the people who I disagree with, who make me furious, that's going to be the people that I report. It's no good. I want a robust debate. I want to see what Joe Biden's got planned. I want to see what Kamala Harris has planned. And you betcha I want to see what Chuck Schumer's got planned. But I'll tell you this right now, this instant impeachment is not going to heal a breach. It's not going to heal the divide. It's going to exacerbate it. And it's frankly going to make the Biden administration's attempts to do whatever they're going to try to do, whatever that is, it's going to make it harder. We all can do our part to at least take a breather and hear what's being said, rather than rapidly reacting swinging and winging and looking for some kind of a kinetic fix. It's not there. You're not 12. I'm not 12. We have to grow up. Ironically enough, the rabble are the ones who are being called the immature ones, but we're not deplatforming anybody. We don't even have that power. It's the titans of tech that are doing the deplatforming. And oh yeah, at about 3:20 this afternoon, I'm going to tell you what is really behind the effort to impeach. It has nothing to do with removing Donald Trump from office. The 25th Amendment has nothing to do with removing Donald Trump from office per se. There's a longer game here. Hey, do me a favor. I just put up a brand new website, brettshow.com, brettshow.com. That's Brett with two T's, just like my name here, brettshow.com. Follow me over there. Check it out. I got articles. I got takes. I got all kinds of great stuff going on. And don't forget, you can reach out to me anytime during the show. We start at 3 o'clock Eastern. That's 12 noon Pacific. What is that, like 9 a.m. in Hawaii? I think I want to do the show from Hawaii. Somebody tell my bosses. That phone number to call in, 704-570-1110. We'll be on right after Rush Limbaugh. I am Brett Winterble. This has been a little bit of a preview for what's coming up later today. We may make this a daily occurrence. In fact, I think we will. I'm Brett Winterble. Till 3 o'clock. I'll see you then.